history. I will change 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 history. That will be the most beautiful day.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in, stopping by tonight for our Ukraine War Report for the 8th of June, 2022. Again, big shout out to all of our returning viewers tonight. I see quite a few familiar faces tuning back in the live chats, both on YouTube and Twitch. We're live on both platforms, YouTube and Twitch. If you have a problem on one of the platforms, if say our stream goes down on Twitch, you can always hop over onto YouTube and vice versa. If you have a problem over on YouTube, you can always hop over onto Twitch. Big shout out to everybody that's tuning in over there on Twitch tonight. Hello to all of you. Hello to Katie Horton, Anna, Kender. Big shout out to Kender. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Mike, Crushing Pie, Tony Starks, Greenville Hauser, Patty Whack. Thank you so much for tuning in. Epi, big shout out to you. Pyrotech, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Pocket Frog, as usual, thank you so much for stopping by again. Thank you so much for tuning in. Miss Chris, hello to you. To everybody, thank you guys so much for stopping by tonight and taking some time out of your evening to get informed on what is going on in Ukraine. To what is going on, arguably not just in Ukraine, but in the broader region. Again, this war is not just confined to Ukraine anymore. It is now in both Russia. Arguably, we've had conflict in that breakaway region of Moldova, Transnistria. Hugo, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Says, hey, Nemico, good to see you back, man. Well, good to see you, Hugo, as well. Yeah, we did have a little bit of a break there, but we're back again with some nightly reports for you guys here. We're going to get you guys informed and up to date on what is going on in Ukraine in this ongoing and very bloody conflict. Again, we've shot way past the 100th day now. We're over 100 days this war has been going on. We're going to start this evening, as we usually start our reports, by going through the main primary headlines, the key topic items, as I like to call them. We'll then switch over into our community aggregated news from our Situation Room and our Intel analysts over on the Discord server, Discord community server. Again, anybody is welcome to join us over there. There's a link to that in the description below. After that, we'll switch over into our open source reporting. Be taking you guys through all of the events that have happened over the past about 24 hours or so from sources like Live UA Map. But tonight we're going to go through a couple of other ones as well. We'll be getting into some of the sources that we traditionally used in the past in that first month of the war when we were doing those initial reports. We'll be taking a look at our flight radars. We'll be taking a look at some of the radioactive monitoring sites in and around Ukraine. We'll be taking a look at what's been going on around some of those nuclear power plants. I know some people had asked for some updates there. We'll also be looking at our NASA firms map as well as our air pollutant maps, some of our other open source intelligence maps there to kind of get an idea of not just what's going on all over Ukraine as a whole, but we'll be looking kind of in depth into some of these battles that are happening right now as we speak, as we bring you guys these reports in places like Severodonetsk. The main headline this evening, again, is this battle for Severodonetsk, the battle for the Donbass. Of course, is continuing to rage on, but specifically the battle for Severodonetsk there is definitely has reached a climax, and we'll get into that with our primary reporting here in just a few moments when we start going through the headline topics. Really quickly, though, again, I would just like to again thank everybody that's stopping by tonight. But if you haven't already, hit that like button, or as we like to say in the chat here, I see a few of you already um, uh, going with this. You got to make sure javelin. We got to javelin the like button. It's the best way to get this information in other people's hands, is to get the algorithm's attention. We can get some more eyes and ears in here on the discussion. Help get this information out to more people. If you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button, or if you're on Twitch, you can hit the follow button. It's the best way to get notified when new streams or new videos go live. Without further ado, we're going to start going through our primary headlines for this evening. Again, I already kind of started with our opener there. This battle for Severodonetsk is currently raging on at this hour as we bring you these reports. Hopefully I'm coming in loud and clear to everybody this evening. I actually did not remember to adjust my mic, but I have confidence that it's set right. I should be coming in clear. Anyway, Russian bombardment of that city, of Severodonetsk, has now pushed those Ukrainian troops back to the city's outskirts. There's been kind of this game of cat and mouse happening there for about the past week as the Russians try to move in. The Ukrainians get pushed back, and the Ukrainians launch counteroffensives, and they take back territory. It's been happening a lot in and around this region here. But specifically, from a report earlier today, I believe just this evening, actually, the Russian bombardment has escalated so much in parts of the city that Ukrainian troops have been pushed back to the city's outskirts at this time. Again, reading the report here. Again, Ukraine now only controls the outskirts of Severodonetsk, says the governor of that region. Ukrainian forces have been pushed back by a Russian bombardment in the frontline eastern city and now only control its outskirts, again, according to the governor of Luhansk, Serhiy Haidai. Speaking to the RBC Ukraine media outlet, which is the news outlet there that picked this story up, Haidai said it made no sense for Ukrainian special forces to stay inside the city after Russia started leveling the area with shelling and airstrikes. Again, the shelling and the bombardment became so heavy, they're basically just destroying all of the buildings. They're leveling the entire area. Regional leaders have said Ukrainian forces might have to, quote, pull back to stronger positions in Severodonetsk amid heavy fighting in the city and frontline villages in the south as Russia pursues a breakthrough in the Donbass. It was, quote, impossible to say that Severodonetsk had been completely seized by Russian troops, Haidai said, adding, quote, our forces now again control only the outskirts of the city, but the fighting is still going on. Our forces are defending Severodonetsk. It is impossible to say the Russians completely control the city. Again, Haidai had earlier insisted that the retreat was not being planned, quote, do not breed betrayal, do not spoil the mood of the armed forces. Nobody is going to surrender Severodonetsk, he said, adding that the Ukraine's defenders would fight for, quote, every inch. There's been a lot of contrasts, or not contrasts, but a lot of correlation stemmed here between Mariupol, the situation that unfolded in Mariupol, and what is happening now in Severodonetsk. You have, again, this kind of cat and mouse game playing out between the Russian forces and the Ukrainian forces there as they exchange shelling and bombardment. The Russians are very heavily bombarding the city. Every time, in fact, we watched an interview earlier today with some fighters in the east there, and they were saying basically for every shell that they send over to the Russians, to the Russian positions, the Russians send, like 50 of them back. They send, 50 shells back or whatever. It was, of course, that's a little bit of an exaggeration there, but he was basically making the point that the Ukrainians, they'll have a very strategic and targeted strike on a Russian position, and then the Russians respond usually with just mass bombardment of the general area where the shell came from, where the Ukrainian fire came from. Again, a report from earlier this evening, civilian evacuations continue across Ukraine as many flee in armored cars and buses to safety. Again, mainly from the east of the country where the fighting is the heaviest at this time, but there are evacuations still occurring from both central and western Ukraine as people do look to leave the country. However, I will add that there's been a large amount of people that have moved back in to Ukraine since the Russians have pulled out of areas in the north, especially in and around Kiev. Mehmet, for instance, was one of a great example of one of those individuals that had left earlier on when the Russians were surrounding the city and were in the north, and a lot of people have then since returned. Again, just to continue on a little bit for that fight that's happening in Severodonetsk. Zelensky earlier today, he called it, quote, the most difficult battle seen so far. Again, he addressing the nation late on Wednesday evening. He said in this quote directly from President Zelensky, he said, Severodonetsk remains the epicenter of the confrontation in the Donbass region. We defend our positions, inflict significant losses on the enemy. The battle for Severodonetsk is probably one of the most difficult during this war, and in particularly, the fate of the Donbass is being decided there. This is a very fierce battle, very difficult, probably one of the most difficult throughout this war. I am grateful to everyone who defends this direction. In many ways, the fate of our Donbass is being decided there. Zelensky described the Donetsk as, quote, a ghost town that has lost most people, thousands of lives, and absolutely all prospects of a future. Only the return of Ukraine, which will definitely happen, only our flag and only Ukrainian law will mean a normal life for these territories, for these cities. Again, the life that was there, peaceful, safe, open to the world, he added in that statement. Again, calling the battle there in Severodonetsk the toughest in the war so far to date. I would definitely, again, the similarities being strung between Mariupol, what happened in Mariupol, just the fierceness of the combat that occurred there, and what is happening now in Severodonetsk. It's very similar. Again, before we continue on, just real quickly, big shout out to everybody that's stopping by tonight. I see quite a few of you have hopped in since we started the reports. We're just starting to go through our main headlines here, so you guys haven't missed too much yet. So, from a report earlier today, Russia turned over the bodies of 210 Ukrainian soldiers that were killed in Mariupol. Ukraine's defense ministry said many of the troops died defending the last holdout in the southeastern city, the Azovstal steel plant. Russia seized control of Mariupol in May after a weeks-long siege culminated in fierce fighting against the Ukrainian regiment at the steel plant. Russia said more than 2,400 of the fighters surrendered. Ukraine's government said remains of the fallen Azovstal defenders arrived in Kiev following an exchange of war dead with Russia. Ukraine's parliament speaker made a plea for European Union membership at the European Parliament. Ruslan Stefanuchuk warned in a speech to lawmakers that any signal otherwise would only encourage Russian President Vladimir Putin. European Union leaders are expected to take up Ukraine's application for EU candidate status later this month. I know we've reported on that quite a few times over the past few months here as they've been looking to pursue that candidate status for the EU there. Again, the Turkish and Russian foreign ministers held talks in Ankara, but failed to reach a breakthrough toward shipping millions of tons of grain and seed stuck in Ukraine's Black Sea ports. So you got grain, you got a lot of sunflowers. There's sunflower oil is a big one here. Again, those sunflower seeds being the main stock there for that sunflower oil. It's a huge export for Ukraine. Again, that's millions of tons of grain and that seed, again, that is stuck in Ukraine's Black Sea ports at this time. Ukraine is a big exporter of key foods like wheat. The countries in Africa and the Middle East rely on heavily, which is exacerbating a food crisis that is occurring in those countries and on a broader scale around the world, one would argue. But Russia's invasion has blocked Ukraine's ports, as we've talked about many times over recent weeks. Turkey said if Russia agreed to create a safe corridor, the West should consider Moscow's demand to lift sanctions. Ukraine was not part of the talks and raised objections to the proposal for the corridor, saying security guarantees are needed. Russia has also demanded that Ukraine remove mines from the Black Sea. Ukraine has continued to defend parts of the eastern Donbass region from Russia's assault. Again, continuing off of the reporting we've done earlier on Severodonetsk, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said the areas hit hardest by fighting were the city of Severodonetsk, he said, as well as the towns of Popsana and Lysychansk. Russia's defense minister said his country controls 97% of the Luhansk province. But according to British defense intelligence and Zelensky, Ukrainian forces were holding on to some territories in that region. The United Kingdom's defense ministry said Ukraine had made successful counterattacks in southwestern Kherson, in the regions in and around Kherson, regaining a foothold on the eastern bank of the Inulit River in recent days. So again, I just want to kind of reiterate here the main headline topic this evening, and arguably for the past few days to a week now, has been Severodonetsk. I know a lot of people have asked the question, how much territory does Russia control in Severodonetsk? How much does Ukraine control? To really accurately give you an answer to that is impossible because it's changing constantly, right? It's changing every hour on the hour. Territory is taken and then taken by the Russians and then taken back by the Ukrainians and vice versa. However, in a statement earlier today, again from Hadeh, again that's Serhiy Hadeh, the head of the Luhansk Regional Military Administration. From earlier today, he said, quote, "The Russians are destroying everything," Hadeh said in a televised announcement. "They are firing tanks, artillery at residential buildings." He says, "Most of the eastern city of Severodonetsk is now controlled by the Russians." Again, this kind of building off of what I reported on a few minutes ago, how the Ukrainians in this that report I gave you at the top of the report there, that was kind of the most recent of what we had. All right, and so that's kind of the most recent update. They had been pushed. The Ukrainian forces have been mainly pushed to the outskirts of the city at this time due to that heavy bombardment. This report came from earlier, came from before that. Again, he said directly, this is the quote directly from that televised announcement. He said, "The Russians are destroying everything. They're firing tanks and artillery at residential buildings, at houses, at all infrastructure. Every building they are leveling to the ground." Again, that came from that news outlet RBC Ukraine on Wednesday. So there was two statements put out separately from RBC Ukraine from that regional military administration over the course of the day. The first one was, again, they reported on the fact that most of the city was in control of the Russians and that they were heavily bombarding basically all of the buildings, all of the infrastructure in the city. And then shortly after, they came out with the report saying that they were now pushing back they were pulling back to the outskirts of the city, more specifically to an industrial zone, which is again a key area that they've been retaining control over on the outskirts of the city. Very similar to Mariupol. Again, you had that Avstal Steelworks factory, also an industrial zone. So now we also have this industrial zone here in Severodonetsk that these Ukrainian soldiers are now kind of pulling back uh, to get away from this Russian bombardment that is happening in the city. Again, it remains to be seen if the Ukrainians are going to mount a counteroffensive, which is most likely because that's what we've been seeing day after day after day as this battle for the city of Severodonetsk has been going on. So I think that basically covers everything that is going on in Severodonetsk as for our primary headlines. If we're going to go into more depth, it's going to have to wait for two things: our community aggregated reporting here in a few moments, and then also our open source reporting. We'll have some in depth there. But I have a few more main headlines for this evening that I want to speak about here. One is foreigners were shown in court video charged with being mercenaries by pro-Russian separatists. Authorities in the self-proclaimed Donetsk People's Republic, the DPR, in eastern Ukraine, have released propaganda video showing three foreigners in court over accusations they were mercenaries fighting for Ukraine. The video, released Tuesday by the Russian state news agency RIA Novosti, showed British citizens Aidan Aslan and Sean Pinner and Moroccan national Brahim Sadoun. Again, the three men have been charged with mercenarism. That's a mouthful there. Mercenarism, crimes aimed at forcible seizure and retention of power, as well as training in order to carry out terrorist activities on the territory of the DPR, said Vitala Triviskaya, an official representative of the general prosecutor of the DPR, in a separate video released on the DPR Telegram channel. Now, apologies not to get too ahead of myself here, but we have a community aggregated report from Charlie Wong over in the Situation Room. Thank you so much, Charlie, for posting this for us. This actually talks a little bit more about this situation. It's actually two British nationals, relatives of a British fighter in Ukraine who was captured by Russian forces, have thanked supporters as he faces charges that carry a possible death penalty. I'll read this article here in a short while when we hop over into our community aggregated reporting, but I don't want to get into it too quickly there. Yeah, that word was kind of a mouthful there. Mercenarism, mercenary. That's the first time. I mean, I've heard mercenary. I've heard that word a million times. I've never heard the word mercenarism. Anyway, we're gonna cover that article here shortly. Again, arguably BS. Again, I think the most BS part of that is the part where they say crimes aimed at forcible seizure and retention of power. Okay, so if you just think about that for 1 second, all right, what are the Russian forces doing in Ukraine? They are forcibly seizing Ukrainian territory and aiming to retain that power. Okay, and they're they're charging three. They're trying to charge again 3 foreigners for being mercenaries and attempting to forcibly seize and retain power. So again, just kind of some hypocritical activity there from the DPR. We'll see how that carries out. I'm going to read you some of the details there from that article in detail when we hop over into our community aggregated reporting. Again, just to continue off of this report, though, before we finish it up, Russia is the only country that considers the DPR independent. The international community does not recognize the DPR and its institutions and considers the territory to be part of Ukraine. DPR authorities said the 3 were foreign fighters who had been captured in the Ukrainian city of Mariupol by Russian forces in April. Independent watchdog groups have long accused the separatists of dismal human rights track record and ill treatment of prisoners. The U.S. Treasury has banned Americans from buying Russian stocks in bonds. U.S. President Joe Biden and his administration have issued a new investment restriction that prohibits Americans from buying Russian stocks and bonds. The ban is the latest step by U.S. officials looking to crank up the financial pressure on Russia in response to Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. According to new guidance issued Monday by the Treasury Department, U.S. investors are prohibited from buying both, quote, new and existing debt and equity securities issued by an entity in the Russian Federation. Up until now, Americans were able to buy Russian stocks and bonds that change hands in secondary markets. However, Americans will still be allowed to sell Russian stocks and bonds, although only to, quote, non-U.S. person. The Treasury said Americans are not, quote, required to divest Russian securities and may continue to hold them, according to the guidance. German Chancellor and the Ukrainian President, Zelensky, quote, agree to do everything they can to enable those grain exports from those Black Sea ports there on the southern coast of Ukraine. Again, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky have agreed to, quote, do everything they can to enable those grain exports from Ukraine as concerns mount over the global food crisis. During a phone call Wednesday, Scholz briefed the Ukrainian leader on his calls with Russian President Vladimir Putin and French President Emmanuel Macron on May 28th, according to a statement from the German Chancellery. Quote, the Chancellor and the Ukrainian President also exchanged views on the current military and humanitarian situation in Ukraine. They agreed that everything must be done to enable grain exports from Ukraine, especially by sea, according to the Chancellery. The leaders' calls come as Turkish and Russian foreign ministers met in Ankara on Wednesday to discuss the issues related to those grain exports that we reported on earlier this evening at the beginning of the stream. Again, in a tweet Wednesday, Zelensky said he raised the issue of Russia's compliance with international rules of treatment of war prisoners. With Scholz, he also stressed the importance of decisions of Ukraine's intentions, intentions on the integration into the European Union. Again, according to that tweet. Again, from President Zelensky, he said in that tweet directly, I'll read you it here, it says, had a phone conversation with Olaf Scholz, discussed enhancing defense support for Ukraine and ensuring global food security, raised the issue of Russian Federation's compliance with international rules of treatment of war prisoners, stressed the importance of decisions on the integration of Ukraine into the European Union. Our final headline for this evening, our final main topic headline, I should say, because stay tuned, we're going to be hopping into our community aggregated reporting and our open source reporting right after. But our last main key topic headline tonight, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development has sharply downgraded its global growth forecasts for 2022, warning that, quote, the world is set to pay a hefty price for Russia's war against Ukraine. The OECD, as it's known by, now expects global growth to be 3% in 2022, down from 4.5% in its December forecast, and to remain at a similar pace for 2023. Quote, inflation projections now stand at nearly 9% in OECD countries in 2022, twice what we were previously projecting, said the chief economist and deputy Secretary General Lawrence Boone, adding that, quote, the extent to which the growth will be lower and inflation higher will depend on how the war evolves, but it is clear the poorest will be hit hardest. The forecast in line with the World Bank, which said yesterday that it expects global growth to be 2.9% in 2022. That is down from, again, 4.5%. That is a massive, massive decrease in global growth. Among the G20 countries, the OECD expects the UK to be hit hardest in 2023 besides Russia, projecting that the country will post zero growth in 2023 after growing by 3.6 in 2022. Boone called for the global cooperation to avoid a food crisis, again calling on those leaders that are looking to get those exports out of those southern coast Black Sea ports along Ukraine. We need to get the grain out of there. We need to get the supplies out of Ukraine. That's the big ticket item there. Again, quote from that report saying, "Today the world is producing enough cereals to feed everyone, but prices are very high and the risk is that this production will not reach those who need it most. Global cooperation is needed to ensure that food reaches consumers at affordable prices, in particular in low-income and emerging market economies." Again, a very drastic situation that is starting to unfold there because of those supplies that are locked in port in Ukraine. Again, that concludes our main primary headlines for this evening. We're now going to start going through our community aggregated news for this evening. Before we do so, though, we're going to have we've done this before a few times. We're going to do it again. We're going to have a little bit of a what I've been calling the gas prices roundup. So as many of you may know, when the war first broke out, there was a major spike in fuel prices. For a little while, though, it looked like it was going to come down, and I had speculated that it was going to continue to go up. The reason it went down temporarily is because world markets adapted, all right, and so that was able to stabilize prices temporarily. However, we're seeing the inevitable take place here now, again, which is those prices continuing to escalate. There's two things that are causing uh, that escalation in oil prices, the escalation in fuel prices right now. One is, of course, the war that is occurring in Ukraine, um, and two, one would argue, especially for those of us here in the states, here in the United States, is that summer rush as people look to travel, as the tourist season looks to ramp up here, but arguably. Um, um, that's not just something that's happening here in the States. It's happening, I would say, in Europe as well. It's Canada, Mexico, and a few other places here in the Americas. So again, if you guys could do me two things here, hit the like button if you haven't already. Second of all, sound off in the chat from where you're tuning in from and what your gas prices are looking like today. I'll tell you today where I'm at here in the U.S. It is well over $5 a gallon. And it's like it came out of nowhere. I remember before I left for our Memorial Day break, we had a gas roundup, and it was I think like 4.80, I believe, a gallon. Maybe even less than that. I think it was maybe like 4.50 a gallon. I think maybe around Memorial Day. I'll have to look back at that stream. But last time I checked, before our break, it was significantly less than what it is now. I believe we're climbing up to 5.20, 5.30 a gallon where I am here. So if you guys want to just kind of give a shout out in the chat there and let me know where you're tuning in from and what your gas prices are looking like this evening. Starting us off, Stephen Gregory. Again, Stephen Gregory, thank you so much for tuning back in tonight. Nice to see you back. $4.59 a gallon here in Tennessee. So that's about $4.60 a gallon, give or take, there in Tennessee today. Charles says $4.99 in Michigan. So basically $5 in Michigan. Barbara, thank you so much for tuning in tonight, says $4.49 in South Texas this evening. Miss Chris says $4.99 in Western Massachusetts, so right about at the $5 mark there. Throw111, thank you so much for tuning in tonight, says $4.60 a gallon in Arizona. Mythical says $4.40 in Georgia. Katie Horton says $5.33 in Oregon. Serenaya says San Diego, oh my God, $6.16 a gallon there. So I would argue that's probably where you guys were seeing gas when the war first broke out, if not maybe a little higher. If you could give me a little insight on that. Let me know, guys, in the chat. Do you guys think it's higher now than it was when the war first broke out? Have you seen those prices climb up higher than they were when we first had that spike? At least where we're at here, we've definitely seen a spike. Shadman1337 says €2 a liter. Yes, we do need to get down with the metric system. Shadman, you are you are 100% right there. I think some of us in the U.S. here, we have a hard time wrapping our heads around the gas prices in Europe. Sometimes, even I do. It's been I've had to use a converter to get my to calculate that out there. It can be a little bit confusing sometimes, especially for some of us Americans. $4.78 in Minnesota, says Adam. That is pretty high there for Minnesota, I believe. New Zealand is $3.20 New Zealand per liter. That sounds high to me, Crushing Pie. That sounds high already. $3.20 per liter, because I believe, that would translate what, maybe like $6-7 a gallon. That's a really rough conversion there. Don't quote me on it. I'm not the greatest on that conversion, as I just stated a minute ago. Hugo coming in clutch here, saying Los Angeles is $6.35 a gallon where he is right now. That is absolutely insane. That does go in hand with a lot of the prices we've seen from California. California, for some reason, has some of the highest gas prices in the country. Hammer Jam says $4.41 in Central Arizona. Itchy the Killer says $6 in Pasadena, California. Going with what we just said there. Hobbies Hobo says West Coast Canada, $6 US per gallon. Hobbies Hobo, thank you so much for tuning in tonight again. So I've noticed a correlation between West Coast and high gas prices. What's up with that? Anybody can give me some insight on that? Yeah, that is pretty high. That's $6 is $6.35 in Los Angeles. That's you're creeping almost $6.50 for gas there. San Diego County $5.89 says Lanny, so that's a little lower out there. Mother Saki says Surprise Arizona $5.30. Costco was $5.89. Interesting. Thank you guys to everybody that just shouted out with your fuel prices. Actually, I have one more. Epi Moo says a U.S. gallon in the U.K. currently is about $8.85. Thank you so much for that conversion, Epi. That is super, super helpful. And holy cow, that is insane. That is absolutely insanity. That is probably the highest gas price I've ever heard of right there. That is not good. That's not good. That's almost $9. That is almost $9 a gallon. Miss Chris says it's higher now, highest they've been. Yeah, I think that's the general consensus, is that they are higher now. Prices in North Carolina keep going up, says CZ. That's what we're also noticing here in a few different states. That I've been through over the past month or so here. I've noticed just a steady increase in prices across the board. Now, Christian, actually with a good question there. That's even better than Gas Price Roundup. We'll have to do this one next time. Says, how much are you guys paying for a gallon of milk? Now, that is an interesting. That would definitely be an interesting one to do. Again, thank you to everybody that sounded off in chat with those fuel prices. Actually, one more. We got Fancy Hat in the Twitch chat. Thank you so much for stopping by tonight, Fancy Hat. He says $5.09 in Washington, $5.15 in Oregon. That is pretty high. James C. says $9.49 for 1 U.S. gallon in North Manchester, England. So that's even higher than where Epi is. That is insane. Sky Queen says $7 plus San Francisco / Northern California. That is wicked. Absolutely wicked, guys. Again, my heart goes out to everybody that is, that has to commute for their job to support their families and that are having to deal with these fuel prices. That is absolutely horrible. Some of the fuel prices that we've been seeing here in the States, and not just here in the States, but in Europe especially. You guys are getting absolutely rocked over there by increases in fuel prices. Don't even get me started on what it's like, fuel prices in and around those Baltic states and in Ukraine specifically. Yeah, there's quite a few countries that have been cut off from Russian fuel, and so their prices are probably quite significantly higher than where we are in the States. Yeah, again, the two main reasons, and I'll say this again, the two main reasons, you guys, are A, the Ukraine-Russian war, and so the loss of Russian oil exports for Europe and then abroad, and then secondly, you have the summer rush. So you have two of those things compounding at one time. HM Producer, thank you so much for tuning in to the chat this evening. To everybody that just sounded off with your fuel prices, again, thank you guys so much. We're now going to be switching over into our Situation Room to take a look at some of our community aggregated news from about the past day or so here. Before that, we're going to switch over to our main screen, though, so you guys can really see what's going on. HM Producer says, Nemico Network, I gave you the 3 reasons why California is so expensive. It's above. So for about 25 years, California has been using a cleaner burning gasoline than the rest of the country that help reduce pollution. That makes sense. That could be more expensive. California has higher taxes on fuel. That also makes sense. And then what was the first one here? Trying to find it here. California is a fuel island, so we don't have pipelines. Very interesting. Thank you so much for that insight, HM Producer. That does clear things up. Yeah, I always wondered why the West Coast, specifically California, had those insanely high fuel prices. I've actually never been out to the West Coast. I've never been to California, so I've never had to deal with that personally, but those prices are insane. That is absolutely insane. All right, guys. So our first post this evening comes from Rat Lady over on the Situation Room, longtime contributor. It's a post from Sarah Ashton Cirillo. She's a reporter from Las Vegas. She's been in Kharkiv region since the beginning. And that's this one here. Whoops, we have 2 of them. We have 2 posts from Rat Lady here. So it begins. The night will be long for sure. Those turkeys there, ready to walk into battle to defend Ukraine at a moment's notice. It's the 1st Turkey Battalion there that you saw. Again, thank you, Rat Lady, for posting that in the Situation Room. Our second post here comes from Recman151. It's a post from Twitter here. We'll skip back over to this one here. Okay. So this is a Russian blogger / alpinist. I believe that means a mountaineer, if I'm not mistaken. I've never heard that term before. Alpinist. Kataya Lipika climbed Everest and unfurled the Ukrainian flag at the top. You can see footage here of her raising the Ukrainian flag on Mount Everest for her country. Hell of a video there. Thank you so much, Reckman, for posting this in the Situation Room. Really quickly before I move on, if you guys would like to follow along and read these posts with us, you can find them in the Situation Room channel over on the Discord server. Anybody is welcome to join over there. If you want to contribute posts to the nightly reports, you can feel free to pick up your Intel Analyst rank in the Welcome channel. And if you have some report, if you have some article or something that you think is worth a mention and has, again, is related directly to the Ukraine war, you can post it over there in the Situation Room. Another post here coming from Reckman151 says, again, this is from Kiev Independent. This is today's Russian troop losses. We often go through this I don't get to it every report, but I like to get it to it every report. Again, looking at these troop and equipment losses here. Let me go down. I gotta find it. I gotta find today's losses. Here we go. 17 hours ago. So these are our updated loss numbers from 17 hours ago. Again, we got 31,000. Again, these, just to be clear to everybody, these are directly from Ukraine. These are from Kiev Independent, which is a Ukrainian news outlet centered in Kiev. The best way I often tell people to get these numbers is to take the numbers from what the Ukrainians are putting out, take the numbers that the Russians are putting out, take the numbers that the British intelligence are putting out, that NATO are putting out, take all those estimates, and then run your averages. Okay, so just keep in mind that these are not 110% accurate. All right, but they are a good indicator of what the losses look like on the ground. So to start us off here, we have 31,500 casualties. That's Russian troop losses. I believe the plus 140 is in the past 24 hours. That's how many have died in the past about 24 hours or so. We have 1,393 tanks, 3,429 armored personnel vehicles, 703 artillery systems, 213 MLRS systems, 96 anti-aircraft warfare systems, 212 planes, 178 helicopters, 13 boats, 559 drones, 53 special equipment, pieces of special equipment, 2,406 vehicles and fuel tanks, and 125 cruise missiles. Again, just to be clear, these are numbers being posted from Ukrainian news. This is directly from Ukrainian news. I often say this, and I'll say it again. There's propaganda on both sides of the war. Propaganda is a weapon as much as a Kalashnikov AK-47, as much as those howitzer artillery systems. Propaganda and the information here is just as much a weapon, and it is used on both sides. The Ukrainians would be dumb not to use propaganda to their advantage. All right, as the Allies did in World War II. All right, as every combatant on both sides of every conflict probably known to man has used propaganda. Okay, it is a weapon, it is a tool at their disposal as much as kinetic weapons of war. So, and that's why I like to state that when looking at these numbers, the best way to get a more honest look at what these numbers are like is to take your averages between, again, the Russian numbers and the Ukrainian numbers, the Western numbers, all the different estimates, and then run your estimates, run your average. Okay, that's the best way to get an honest estimate of what's going on here. Okay, when it comes to troop losses. However, I will say that without a doubt, the Russian troop losses are high, especially when it comes to their equipment. They have had drastic losses in this conflict so far, and there is concrete evidence that points towards that. However, when it comes down to it, looking at these numbers coming from these Ukrainian news outlets, I personally hold it in the same regard as I do for the Russian numbers, which is it's an estimate. They're all estimates, okay? And sometimes these estimates coming from these news outlets can be slightly manipulated, all right, or they can be, exaggerated at times. Again, in war, you don't know the final numbers until after the war is done. Usually it takes years to get a final concrete number as to how many people died, as to how many pieces of equipment were destroyed, etc. However, I will add that in the modern age, in the modern information age that we're in now, we have a lot of tools at our disposal. It's a lot easier for us to get quicker updates, quicker estimates on what these numbers are looking like. So again, I would say take everything with a grain of salt here. However, the loss in personnel and in vehicles here, even that we're seeing here from the Kiev Independent, is not too far off. I would like to say that Russian losses are extremely high, and that their equipment losses are high as well. That's not to say that the Ukrainians haven't lost personnel as well. They have. They've lost a lot of personnel. They've lost a lot of equipment as well. However, the Russians definitely have a fair share more of casualties under their belt, and especially when it comes to destroyed equipment. And we've gone through uh, the lists of destroyed equipment before, actually, with you guys. There's actually a open source resource. I believe it's in our open source intelligence tools on the Discord server, if I'm not mistaken. If not, I'll have to add it in over there. There's actually an independent organization in Ukraine that actually tracks all of the destroyed Russian military equipment. They go and they take pictures of each piece of each tank, each APC, each artillery system that's destroyed. They take the serial numbers off of them, the VIN numbers if they can recover them. They take pictures of it, they geolocate it, and it's all listed right there on the webpage. Maybe if I can get that up here on screen later on the show, we can go through some of those numbers. I believe they're still tracking those. I haven't checked that website in a few days here, but I believe they've been updating them periodically. So again, massive losses there from the Russians. Arguably, both sides have lost too many men and too much equipment. Too many civilian casualties have occurred along the way. Too many pieces of Ukrainian infrastructure have been destroyed. The country is in absolute ruin now. Um, Again, if the Russians can't have something, they bombard it into utter destruction. That's been a kind of a repeating pattern here that we've been seeing. Shake the hand, says Nemico Network. There's very little evidence that the Ukrainians are using propaganda relative to the Russians. Therefore, I defer towards the official estimates from Ukraine. Yeah, and so I mean, I would argue that you're right when it comes to how much to the quantity of propaganda that is being used. I would say that definitely uh, the Russians take the cake when it comes to how much propaganda they've been putting out. But to say that the Ukrainians have not used propaganda to their advantage, uh, I would say would be false, especially on a localized level. Okay, on a localized level, they're trying to use propaganda in eastern Ukraine to their advantage. They need to. All right, it's again, as I said before, it's a weapon of war. All right, uh, the same way that the Russians attempt to spread uh, uh, propaganda to the Ukrainians in the West. The Ukrainians are trying to spread propaganda to the occupied areas in the East. Okay, and we have seen evidence of this occurring. Of them again spreading information. There's been use of pamphlets. There's been use of SMS text messages. There's been use again of local news outlets for these purposes. Again, it's as much of a weapon of war as a Kalashnikov or as an AK-47. Shaddam says you heard the pro-Russians in eastern of Ukraine are speaking up. I have heard of a guerrilla movement in some areas of eastern Ukraine, occupied areas, Ukrainian citizens that have sprung up in occupied areas and taken up arms and begun kind of to use kind of like guerrilla warfare tactics to take out certain targets and just basically give the Russians a hard time, give the occupying Russians as much of a hard time as they possibly can. Yeah, as Anna says in the chat, propaganda is part of all wars, and that goes back to ancient times, even before we're talking not just the Civil War, the Revolutionary War, but we're talking back to the medieval ages. Propaganda was used on both sides of conflict. So I'm trying to get back to where we were in the Situation Room here. trying to find what post we were on here. Okay, so our last one came from Rekman. Our next post comes from Carbon, longtime contributor on the Discord server. This is a post coming from Mariupol, talking about Mariupol is on the brink of a cholera outbreak as the city, quote, drowns in rubbish and sewage. Deputy Mayor Sergei Orlov said summer is accelerating the decomposition of thousands of corpses while Mariupol residents have no way out of the Russian-held city. Again, earlier we talked about how there was 210 Ukrainian bodies, Ukrainian military personnel. Their bodies were sent to Kiev from those Russian forces, by those Russian forces. I talked about this when the Mariupol saga kind of came to a close, that we were going to be seeing images, we were going to be hearing reports of kind of just the sheer amount of death and destruction that has occurred in Mariupol. This is an example of that. The city is destroyed, its infrastructure is destroyed. There's nowhere for sewage to go. There's nowhere for trash and waste to go. There's bodies lying in the streets and buildings that are starting to decompose in the summer heat. It is not a good situation in Mariupol still at this time. Even though it is in Russian control now, the fighting for the most part has ceased in Mariupol, but there's no infrastructure there. There's a humanitarian crisis occurring there. Not just Mariupol, in many other parts of Ukraine as well. Shake the Hand says propaganda versus fabrication. Yes, that's a very key point there. Very good comment there. Propaganda versus fabrication. The Russians, yes, to be clear, I mean, we've seen evidence of this countless times since the wars began. The Russians don't just use propaganda, they use all-out fabrication. That's what sets them aside from the Ukrainians, is that they're willing to go as far as full-out fabrication of news. Okay, full-out fabrication of events, all right, to aid in their propaganda. Right? There's a difference between just using propaganda for, for morale purposes, for as a weapon of war, and all-out fabrication, creating false flags, etc., to further your narrative. That's a whole different ballgame. And again, that's what I've argued many times on the show is kind of what separates kind of the Ukrainian tactics from the Russian tactics. The Russians are willing to lie. They're willing to full-on fabricate situations, and we've seen evidence of this multiple times on reports. Stretching all the way back to when the war first began, before they even came over the border, they were doing that. Yep, as T. Paulahanian says, shot shrapnel. An excellent example there. Shot shrapnel. Those videos that I showed you in the early days of the wars are excellent examples of how the Russian military and the Russian government fabricates stories. They don't just use propaganda; they use fabrication of events. Again, as a tool and as a weapon. Our next post here, again, thank you to Carbon for posting that. Our next post here comes from Charlie Wong, as we briefly mentioned earlier, but now I'm going to go into detail here. This talks about those British fighters, those foreign fighters that were captured in Mariupol. I'm going to read you guys this whole article here. Relatives of a British fighter in Ukraine who was captured by Russian forces have thanked supporters as he faces charges that carry a possible death penalty. The family of Aiden Aslan, one of the 3 men accused of being mercenaries for Ukrainian forces, has said they are working with Foreign Office and Ukrainian government to get him home. In a statement released through the Foreign Office, they describe Mr. Aslan as a much-loved man and much missed. It comes after the president of Ukraine, Separatist Donetsk People's Republic, said the region's Supreme Court is opening the trial of the 3 Britons. You can see a picture of Aiden there on screen. Again, I've seen this picture almost spread like wildfire across the internet in recent days. of that British fighter there. If convicted on the charges, including of trying to seize power, the men could face the death penalty. Separatist President Denis Pushilin on Monday claimed the crimes they committed were monstrous, according to separatist news agency DAN. Mr. Aslan and one of the other men, Sean Pinner, were members of regular Ukrainian military units in Mariupol. The affiliation of the third man, Andrew Hill, who was captured in the Mykolaiv area, is unclear. Mr. Aslan's family said in the statement on Tuesday, "We, the family of Aiden Aslan, wish to ask for privacy at this time from the media. This is a very sensitive and emotional time for our family, and we would like to say thank you to all that have supported us." Quote, "We are currently working with the Ukrainian government and the Foreign Office to try and bring Aiden home. Aiden is a much-loved man and very much missed, and we hope that he will be released very soon." Dominic Raab has said the Foreign Office will, quote, make the representations on Mr. Aslan's behalf. Speaking on Monday, he told LBC, in relation to that case, "I don't know all the details, but of course we would expect the laws of the armed conflict to be respected, and we will make sure that we will make all the representations." Quote, "I know the Foreign Office will be looking at making sure all those representations are made." Again, that concludes our primary community aggregated reports for this evening from the Situation Room. As I go through some of these other topics tonight, if I have some others, we will touch on them. And there is some stuff with some of these separate community aggregated channels that we will get into here shortly. However, we're going to switch over now to our open source intelligence map. Actually, you know what? Before we do that, we're going to do a little bit of a rundown through our flight radar channel. So, one of the big communities over on our Discord server is the flight radar guys. All the guys that are keeping an eye on the skies, keeping an eye on the flight radars, and looking for interesting activity that is happening in and around the region. And there's been a lot of good work being put in over there on the flight radar channel on the Discord server. And so I wanted to touch on a few of those things this evening. To everybody that is tuning in tonight. But before we do that, we're going to just hop into flight radar really quickly here, because our longtime friend Forte 10 is in the air tonight. As usual, doing passes over the Black Sea at this time. It's running surveillance. It's keeping an eye on what's going on over here in the ports of Crimea and Sevastopol. It's looking what's going on over here over by Odessa. It's keeping an eye on basically everything that's going on here in the Black Sea right now. Forte 10 is the man. Kim Saparian, earlier today, I hope I pronounced that right. Apologies if I didn't. Kim Saparian, over on the Flight Radar channel, posted this beautiful picture earlier when Forte 10 was just getting airborne and heading over to the Black Sea. So that was around 6:11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, my time. So that's about 3 hours ago. So it took about 3 hours, and now it is on station here over the Black Sea, keeping our boys safe, keeping our boys informed on the ground what's going on here in the Black Sea. Very important. Very, very, very important what's going on here. What information is being, what intelligence, sorry, is being collected here is extremely, extremely valuable for not just the West, not just NATO, but specifically, importantly, the Ukrainians. Most importantly. Memster23 asks, is that an American plane? Yes, this is a U.S. Air Force Northrop Grumman RQ-4B Global Hawk. Really quickly, I can just do I'll do a little bit of I'll do a little bit of one of these. Hey, hey, yo, yo. Yo, hey, hey, what's this? Yo, this is a Northrop Grumman RQ-4B Global Hawk. The thing is massive. It's not your daddy's backyard RC plane. This is not your DJI Mavic Mini. It's about the size of a Boeing passenger jet. The thing is massive. Or it's not the size of a Boeing passenger jet, but it has the wingspan, I believe, near a Boeing passenger jet, if I'm not mistaken. There's actually a diagram that somebody sent over at one point. that actually compared the size of one of these to like a Boeing 737, and the wingspan is almost like the same. It's almost the same wingspan. Trying to find that here. Oh well, if somebody has that, send it over to me and I'll show it on screen. But great guy. The Global Hawk is a great piece of tech. He's a good guy. Good people. Keeping again, everybody informed on what the Russians are doing in the Black Sea at this time. Memster says, did you hear about the plane crash in California today? Yeah, I heard something about a military plane crash in California today. I believe that's on our list of flight radar stuff to get to here, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, it's not. I did hear about that though. I thought I saw that in our flight radar channel earlier. Yeah, I heard there was was it a helicopter or a military helicopter that crashed in California today, if I'm not mistaken, or our next flight radar post here also comes from Kim Suparian. This shows a helicopter on the Belarusian border that was doing flights earlier today. Cobus NL had some interesting activity here. This was some flights they were tracking. I believe this is over Poland, if I'm not mistaken. This is actually a Ukrainian flight here that they were tracking earlier today. Here, Give Milda posted a flight from a flight from Ulyanovsk. Again, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. There's a Russian Air Force. I believe this is a IL-76MD-M that was tracked earlier on radar. Did quite a bit of had quite a bit of a trip here, as you can see. Went all over the place. Very interesting. Givmilda says it keeps turning off the transponder. Is that even okay while flying over their airspace during this time? The RFF 701 that just arrived over Turkey. Oh, okay, referring to that one. Okay, I see. Here's another flight that Givmilda was tracking earlier. This was the RFF 701, the Tupolev Tu-135AK Russian Air Force heading to Turkey that happened earlier. Katlenberg, thank you so much for the super chat tonight. I hope you're having a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for stopping by this evening and getting informed on what is going on in Ukraine. Right now, we're going through our in between our community aggregated situation room reports and the open source live UA map reports. I'm kind of touching on some of the stuff our radar guys and some of our other intel analysts have been doing in the Discord server. Right now, I'm kind of touching on some of the radar tracking that's been done actually just today. This is all from today from the Flight Radar channel. HM producer coming in clutch. Thank you so much. Says it was a MV-22B Osprey, a military aircraft. I believe, is that the an Osprey? Isn't that the it's kind of like a plane / helicopter combo, if I'm not mistaken. MV-22B Osprey. Really quickly, I'm gonna do a quick search on that. I'm pretty sure it's MV-22B. Yeah, Osprey. Yeah. It's the one that's like a plane helicopter combo. It's a vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. It can take off vertically like a helicopter, but it can fly forward like an airplane. It has a wing structure like an airplane. So apparently it belonged to the 3rd Marine Aircraft Wing. Unfortunately, it crashed in a remote area 100 miles east of San Diego. 5 servicemen were killed, unfortunately, in that crash that happened today. Hugo, thank you so much for coming in. Hugo and HM Producer, both of you guys, thank you so much for coming in clutch there with that reporting on that military aircraft that was downed in California today. Again, that was 100 miles east of San Diego. 5 servicemen lost their lives today in that crash. Memster asks, any reason as to why it crashed? I'm not sure if the reason has been given yet. Tony Wilson asks, don't Ospreys have a history of crashing? Why are they still using that thing? I feel like I've heard that somewhere, but I'm not sure if it's true or not. Yeah, and somebody also just said, T. Polahanian said, just Ospreys don't have the best reputation. I feel like I have also heard that somewhere, and don't directly remember where I heard that, but I feel like there is some possibly truth to it, maybe. I feel like it's an awesome vehicle. The Osprey just has there's no other aircraft like the Osprey. I think it's definitely a pretty cool vehicle. Ace Bravo NZ posted some information earlier, some tracking. He was tracking 4 U.S. F-15s flying in United Kingdom airspace. You can see them on screen here. You can see 1, 2, 3. Where's the 4th one? So we got 1, 2, 3 F-15s. Ha ha ha. Where's the 4th? Hold on, I think he sent another picture. Yeah, okay, he got another picture here. All right, where's our 4th F-15? All right, okay, 1, 2. Yeah, so we got 4 on screen here, I think. Yep. Do we? Let's count. 1, 2, 3. Where's our 4th? I know there's a 4th around here somewhere. I just saw it. Well, there is 4. There was 4 somewhere on there. I think he sent maybe another picture here. Oh, okay, so there's another one he was tracking here. This is a Huron drone he was tracking earlier today. This was not too far from Barcelona. I believe that's the one there he's tracking on radar. I believe that's it there. Big shout out to Ace Bravo. Again, if you guys would like to take a look at some of that reporting, you can find that in the Flight Radar channel over on the Discord server. As interesting flights, come on screen, as they come on radar, people, some of our intel analysts, some of our radar analysts that are tracking those flights, they report on them over there in that channel. It's a great resource if you're interested in tracking some of those aircraft and what's kind of going on in the region, in the region's airspace specifically. So Lords of Acid actually had posted this in the Naval Radar channel a little while back, and I think it is worth a mention here. This actually comes back from June 1st, but looks like it had been removed from that channel. It talks about Snake Island, which I know quite a few people have asked about. I think I might have touched on this on possibly last week's report, if I'm not mistaken. But it talks about an unidentified object, possibly a Russian Navy warship that appeared against the rocks at Snake Island. That was the 1st of June. Unclear, but sufficiently interesting to be worth sharing. Hoping high-resolution imagery will confirm. Treat as unconfirmed. So we did actually have some Maxar images that came out after. It doesn't look like too much is going on in and around Snake Island as of now. However, that was interesting. Some interesting activity that we did see occurring in and around Snake Island there. I know there's been a lot of reports, and a lot of people have asked about Snake Island. It has kind of a reputation now since the war has began. So we're now going to switch over to our live UA map, and we're going to go through all of the individual reports that have occurred over the past about 12 to 24 hours. We'll start about 14 hours back or so here. So again, these come from a variety of sources. You can find these at liveuamap.com, more specifically ukraine.liveuamap.com. That's the best place to follow along with these if you want to do so while I'm kind of going through them. If you want to follow along, you can do that again at ukraine.liveuamap.com. We're going to scroll back to the 14-hour mark here. A Russian airstrike destroyed a school in Bakhmut. And you can see a video here of the destruction there of that building. Again, this is a school in Bakhmut. You can see as they sift through the rubble there, looking for survivors from that strike. Again, that is one example of the Russians striking schools, hospitals, and many other civilian targets in Ukraine. 14 hours ago, Russian army shelled the border areas of Chernihiv region from Novi Yurkovichy. Again, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that 100% correctly. I've been trying to do my best at getting better at pronouncing some of these Ukrainian town names. And again, you can see where that was located on the map there. 13 hours ago, exchange of bodies of fallen servicemen 50-50 was conducted at the contact line in the Zaporizhia region. So that is more bodies of fallen fighters that have been exchanged. 50 Russian for 50 Ukrainian were exchanged again there at the contact line to Zaporizhia region. 12 hours ago, explosions reported in Odessa and the region surrounding. You can see that was located there. Again, Odessa and the southern coast is not out of the frying pan yet, as we would say. Again, Kherson, the region of Kherson, still occupied by the Russians. The Russians are still looking to push further westward. They are still striking areas on the southern coast here, near Odessa, in and around Odessa. I actually have a camera from Uzhny up on our 24/7 cam stream right now because, again, we're expecting strikes. We're expecting conflict to start to occur in these areas here in the coming weeks, more heavily than they have been in recent weeks. We're going to see an uptick in the bombardment of these areas, and we possibly will see Russian forces try to push into some of these areas, primarily this controlled territory that the Ukrainians have taken back here, that the Russians are going to try to probably push forwards towards Mykolaiv. It could be that they just tried to sidestep here underneath and go for some of these towns here, possibly try to connect over to Odessa. However, it's looking less and less likely per day as they shift most of their focus, and most of the fighting, again, is currently happening in the east here of the country. 10 hours ago, Ukrainian military back to Bladohante. Again, you can see, again, they're taking quite a bit of this territory back from the Russians, but the Russians have incrementally made progress towards Mykolaiv. It's been a game of cat and mouse, okay? I wouldn't like to say that either side is winning here. It's kind of a stalemate at the moment in and around Kherson, as one day the Russians push a little forward, the Ukrainians then push back. Again, I've talked about this in recent weeks. The Russians' progress in a lot of these areas has been they call it anemic, and that means basically the Russians, they take an area, and the Ukrainians usually take it back within 12 to 24 hours, sometimes less, sometimes more. But we've seen kind of a pattern of this kind of activity. 8 hours ago, Russian troops shelled Koidin, Razivka, and the Velka Barzivka of Sumy region. Again, that came from a report from the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine in their evening report. You can see there's a lot of territory here up by Sumy and in the north that's been retaken by the Ukrainian forces. But what do we see in a lot of those areas? You see shelling, you see a lot of bombing, and a lot of bombardment in those areas that the Russians have pulled out of. 8 hours ago, Russian troops shelled, 8 hours ago at Slobohanshina direction, Russian army shelled the Uri, Pydomink, Retashivka, and a few other regions there. Again, you can see them on the map here, dotting this area in and around Kharkiv region. And that also came from that evening report from the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Really quickly here, just taking a look at taking a look into our live chat here, and kind of going through a few of the PMs that some of you guys have sent over my way. I don't always have time to go through all of them, but I try to at least go through the majority of them. I don't always answer all of the PMs, but I do read all of them eventually. It takes me a while sometimes, but I do try to at least read all of them. If I can, I reply to as many of them as I possibly can. 8 hours ago, at the Severodonetsk direction, Russian forces shelled Pravila, Severodonetsk, Lysychansk, Voronovi, Toshivka, and a few other areas there. Again, that came also in the evening report from the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. You can see here on the map where those strikes are located. The shelling, the bombardment, the fighting happening in the east at this time is extremely high, extremely intense. More so than we've seen at any time. The past 3 weeks of fighting have been the most intense. In my opinion, over the entire war, the past 3 weeks of fighting has been the most intense, the most constant in the east of the country than it has been the entire war, without a doubt. At Sloviansk's direction, Russian army shelled Vilny, Admivka, and a few other regions there. Again, the Russian aviation conducted airstrike in Sloviansk, and you can see that was located on the map there. That also came in that evening report. Another from the evening report: Ukrainian Defense Forces repelling Russian attacks at the Dovhenki village. Again, coming from the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine in that evening report. You can see where that's located here. South of Izium. Again, Izium is now under Russian control, and a lot of the outlying area is as well. The Russians looking to conduct this further pincer movement here in the east. They have been working on for some time now. Again, trying to surround Lysychansk and Severodonetsk. Eight hours ago, at the Bakhmut direction, Russian artillery shelled a few regions. One of them named New York. I did not know that there was a town named New York in Ukraine. Russian aviation conducted airstrikes near Novokamenka and a few other regions there. Again, this also came in the evening report. But I really just want to show you guys here on the map here. You can see a lot of these bombardments follow the front line. You can see this kind of pattern here. They all hug the front line or slightly behind the front line where the Ukrainians are holding positions. That's where we're seeing these bombardments occur. 8 hours ago, Russian forces have suffered significant losses near Berestov, says the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine in that evening report. That was up here again at Berestovi. You can see where that was located again. Apparently, the Russian forces have suffered significant losses in that area in recent days and hours. 8 hours ago, at Edivika and a few other regions, including Zaporizhia, Russian army shelled the Kamenyanka, Edivika, Pisky, and a few other regions there. Again, Russian aviation conducted strikes near Mariinka and Kamenyanka and a few other regions there. So you can see on the map, again, it kind of continues that trend there. If we zoom out here, you can see, so we have 8 hours ago, Severodonetsk. Actually, right here you have up here in the north, these strikes 8 hours ago, and then 8 hours ago a little bit south from that, and then kind of to the east there. And we have that strike that occurred there. You have these strikes here in the Bakhmut direction, and then these strikes here, all following kind of this front line along the Donbass region. 5 hours ago, video from Svitozhsk from Russian accounts. So it does say that that includes some potentially sensitive content here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up and just review it real quick before we get it on screen to you guys, just to make sure that everything is all good when it comes to the TOS for YouTube and Twitch. So the translation from this says Svitozhsk video from Ruzhny. I believe it does actually show some bodies on the road, so I'm not going to actually show this video to you guys, but basically it's a video showing a drive through that town there, and just all of the bodies on the roads at this time, at the time of when this was posted, and just kind of the destruction of that town there. Yeah, some pretty graphic images. I'm actually not going to show that video in whole to you guys tonight, but you can see a image here from that video. Some of the bodies littered along the streets there as they're driving through. I'm pretty sure those are corpses. So again, I'm just going to err on the side of the caution when it comes to the Twitch and YouTube terms of service. 5 hours ago, explosions reported in Kharkiv and Mariifa. You can see where those are located there on the map. 5 hours ago, Russian troops shelled Kharkiv, with MLRS killing 3 and wounding 5 people. It's located here on the map. And 5 hours ago, here you have heavy explosions reported in central Kharkiv. I'm going to get this source open for you guys. This is from Telegram. So, warning to my headphone viewers, my headphone wearing viewers, guys. Might be a little loud. So it's just video of, like, I don't see any flashes or anything like that. So again, this is kind of hard to confirm. And again, I try to take everything that comes from Telegram with a grain of salt. Everything that comes from Telegram with a grain of salt. Okay, so again, this is reportedly heavy explosions in central Kharkiv. Given that they are on live UA map, though, these guys are really good at geolocating these posts. I would say that this is an authentic video, most likely taken by a civilian somewhere in Kharkiv at night, filming these strikes that occurred. There's been a lot of strikes in Kharkiv and this region over the past 12 hours or so. Look at all of them. You have quite a few here. Just 5 hours in the span of just the past 5 hours. There's been 2 here reported on the live UA map. Those are just the ones that have been reported here on screen. I'd again like to thank everybody that contributed to tonight's reporting. I would like to thank everybody that stopped by this evening to get informed on what is going on in Ukraine. Shake the Hand says, Nemico Network, thanks for the warning as eardrums are short in supply. Go Tarp. Thank you so much, Shake the Hands, for tuning in tonight. Yeah, I've been trying to get better at warning you guys when I'm about to blow out your eardrums. So, again, just to reiterate, thank you guys so much for stopping by tonight, taking some time out of your day to get informed on what's going on here. We just got done going through, first we went through our headline topics. We then went through our community aggregated reporting. We then kind of touched on a few of the different channels from our Discord server and what those guys have been doing, some of our intel analysts, some of the radar guys, and what they've been up to. We then went through our individual reports from our open source map, live UA map here on screen. There's a few other things I wanted to have time to touch on this evening, but we're actually running out of time. So we're going to switch over to a little bit of a Q&A here quick with everybody in the live chats, both on Twitch and over on YouTube. Utkin Estilla, Etsilla. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He says, right on, Nemico. Thank you for the report. Well, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. To everybody that stopped by tonight, thank you guys so much. To everybody that supported the channel tonight, to everybody that hit that like button, thank you guys so much for showing the love and stopping by, and again, taking time out of your day to get informed on what's going on. That's what's most important here. Anna says, large hail and tornadoes here yesterday. Cleanup today and assessment of storm damage. Well, Anna, I hope everybody is safe there, and I'm glad to have you tuning in tonight, and hope you guys don't get any more tornadoes or hail. I'm lucky to be in an area of the U.S. where we don't get tornadoes. We do get some hail, though, occasionally. Not Pocky says, rain in Michigan. Well, Pocky, I hope the farm. I believe you're the one with the farm, right? I hope you got that barn door closed tonight, and I hope the rain isn't giving you too much trouble. Miss Tiger Eye says, I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like Ukraine has been doing a good job at defending. I mean, literally, the map looks seemingly unchanged for the most part for several weeks. Maybe I'm done. Well, Tiger Eye, you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. And but the Russians, they have had some progress. To say the Russians haven't taken any ground would be false news. Okay. The Russians have made progress. In fact, just the other day, I think President Zelensky came out and said that the Russians now control about 20% of Ukraine. So that is a very significant chunk of territory. That is not insignificant at all. Tango Down, thank you so much for stopping by tonight and moderating the live chats. Fancy Hat, thank you so much for stopping by tonight and moderating the live chats. As always, it's a huge help, guys. Thank you so much for stopping by tonight. Kender, thank you so much for your support, as always. My favorite, one of my favorite live chat participants, Kender, says, hot as hell in Florida. I hope it's not too hot down there, Kender, for you. Get that air conditioner running if you got one. I'm going to have to get one installed here soon. It's starting to get a little toasty where we're at as well. Epi, thank you so much for stopping by tonight. Says, thanks, Nemico Network, for all the research and compiling. Cheers, folks. Thank you so much, Epi, for stopping by tonight and just being here with us, man. You're awesome. Glad to have you on board. Madeline7, thank you so much for stopping by tonight. Says, thanks for the report. Well, thank you, Madeline, for tuning in. Catlinburg says, I'm in Laguna Niguel, California. Sunny and clear from here to October. I bet that is just beautiful out there, Catlinburg. Thank you so much for stopping by tonight. Thank you so much for the support earlier. Much appreciated. And as always, probably my favorite part about doing this, you guys, seeing some of the returning viewers that have stopped by, have been here for literally the entire time since we started doing this, before the war started. I've seen quite a few of you guys that have been here for a while, and that's honestly what keeps me coming back, is seeing you guys tuning back in. Haiti, call me King Sam the God 2 says, Haiti to USA overnight big windstorm, 13-day luck. Interesting. Not exactly sure how to decipher that comment there, but I hope everybody's okay from that windstorm. And not sure if are you tuning in from Haiti tonight? Call me if you are. Awesome to hear that we have somebody tuning in from the beautiful land of Haiti. Kender says it was 91 in Florida. Oof. That is a bit toasty. Tango Down says Fancy is on Twitch. Yep, we know. He's now our resident Twitch mod after his YouTube channel was unfortunately removed by YouTube due to some sketchy activity. I won't get into that too much right now, but you guys can show him some love. Go and send him some messages. Let him know that you guys care for him. And if he's on Twitch, I'm not sure if he's streaming on Twitch or not. I think he might be. If he is, go follow him. Go follow him on Twitch. Miss Tiger Eye says it's going to be a high of 93 in Louisiana tomorrow. Oof, that sounds pretty rough. Cold of Winter 1, thank you so much for following over there on Twitch. Much appreciated. Hugo says February 24th. You've been here since February 24th, Hugo. Thank you so much for tuning in that whole time. I know I see you. I think every time we have a stream. So you're one of the OG viewers. Thank you so much. Kendra says, "Oh, thank you, Nemico. My husband laughed when you said that." Well, glad to hear that you guys are both tuning in tonight to the stream. I know I hear of quite a few couples that tune in to the stream. There was also one guy, I'm not sure if he's still in here or not, that used to play the stream for his bar. He worked at like a bar in Idaho. I think he was in Idaho, if I'm not mistaken. And he used to play the stream for the entire bar, so that was pretty flattering to hear that. But again, thank you guys so much. Katie Horton says, thank you, Nemico. It's 71 in Oregon. Sounds pretty toasty, but that's not too bad. 71 is doable. Again, thank you guys so much to everybody that stopped by tonight for the stream. It will be uploaded, as usual, to the YouTube channel at youtube.com/Nemico Network as soon as we're done live here. So if you missed the report tonight or you want to go back and rewatch it, you'll be able to do that over on the YouTube channel. New reports every weekday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 3 a.m. Ukraine time. We will soon, not yet, but soon, in the coming weeks, we'll be switching over to a different reporting schedule. We'll be doing like 1 to 2 reports a week instead of the every night. Again, as news and information, as the war kind of goes into this grinding halt, this kind of grinding as it kind of grinds on here, and as information and as intelligence has become harder to get consistently out of Ukraine, as events have kind of slowed down here a little bit, we will be slowing down our reporting schedule slightly. However, I will, as usual, be on call for when major events occur. We will be bringing you guys live streams to keep you guys informed on what's going on as events happen. I'm kind of going to be shifting the focus in the coming weeks here on focusing on uploading more video content to you guys. We got a lot of Ukraine stuff, a lot of open source intelligence stuff coming your way, but I have some other stuff not related to the war too, to get our minds and our focus off that a little bit as well. So we got a whole bunch of stuff coming down the pipeline for you guys. But as for right now, the reporting schedule is still the same. Weeknights, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 3 a.m. Ukraine time. Be here for the reports on what's going on in this ongoing conflict. Best place to get information on what's going on in Ukraine, one of the best resources by far for up-to-date information, is the Discord server. That's discord.gg/Nemico. Everybody's welcome to join over there. You can contribute in the Situation Room to our nightly reports. If you want to contribute to the reports from our Situation Room, you can do that over there on the Discord server. If you haven't already, guys, make sure to hit that like button. It's the best way to get the algorithm's attention, get this information into the hands of a lot more people. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you're on Twitch, hit the follow button. It's the best way to get notified when new streams or new videos go live. Again, guys, if you are interested in any of our sources, you can find a lot of that stuff in the description below. All the links to everything you can find in the description below. If you can't find something there, you can find it over on the Discord server, of course, as usual. Let me switch back over here to our main newsroom here. I'll be back tomorrow night, guys, with a report. And right after this stream is done, don't go anywhere because our 24/7 cam stream will be live here on screen for you. We're going to be keeping that live all week this week. I'm going to try to keep it up 24/7 if possible. I know sometimes some of those connections can get a little spotty, so especially for some of those cameras. And we'll be getting the auto refresher running as well, so we'll be refreshing the cameras every about 5, 10, 15 minutes, depending on what I set the interval yet. I haven't set it up yet, so we'll have to do that after the stream is done live here. So make sure to tune in for that if you want to watch the. If you want to stick around and watch the cameras and join in on the discussion in the live chats, the best place to do that is on the 24/7 cam stream. Again, to everybody that stopped by tonight, I see quite a few of you returning viewers, quite a few new viewers. Give your guys a pat. Give yourselves a pat on the back. You guys deserve it for taking some time out of your day to do something important and get updated on what's going on in the world. Get updated on what's going on in this war in Ukraine. To all of you guys, thank you so much for stopping by. Until next time, you're watching Nemico Network.
Something that will change our daily lives. That will change history. 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 That will be the most beautiful day.